Perception is reality, and I want to talk about that today. So, your perception is literally your reality because nothing is actually experienced that the mind says you have not experienced. So, I want to welcome you to Unleashing Happiness. I am your host, Cecilia Hendricks, and this is the first episode that I'm doing into 2025. If you listened to my last episode, which was the 100th and coming into the new year, I was super excited because I think this new year has so much to offer. I just feel it kind of in my gut that there's good things coming, and I'm really, really excited about it. So I do want to talk today, as I mentioned before, about our perception and how perception is truly reality. The only things that we experience are because our minds tell us that we experience it. And a good friend of mine, Maggie Murphy, who you can also find on YouTube, sent me a video earlier this week that was talking about reality and how it's an illusion because essentially nothing truly exists outside of itself. And if there's consciousness, nothing exists outside of consciousness because everything that we bring in is being filtered through our perceptions, our life filter, and then telling us what it is we're experiencing, whether that is good, bad, a learning opportunity, or that we're just constantly being crapped on in life. Now, admittedly, that video said it in a much kind of nicer and scientific way than what I'm probably going to talk about today. And I will put a link down to that video below if you'd like to check it out. I thought it was really good. He was very well spoken, and it made a lot of sense to me. I did love the video though, and I loved the topic because I've always kind of felt this way, where I have wondered, okay, if you and I can both be sitting at the same place at the same time, but have different perceptions of either the speech that we're listening to, the movie that we're watching, right? Like you could love it and I could hate it. You could think that it was this beautiful love story and I could think that it was just kind of like a weird story that has a lot of toxic pieces to it. Matter of fact, a book that I read last year was kind of exactly that. I had a lot of people who loved the book Hello Beautiful, and it is very beautifully written. But to me, I was floored that a family would allow something like this to happen. I'm not going to spoil the book, but to me, there was so much toxicity into it. And I didn't see it quite as this like really beautiful love story that so many others saw. And it's because of the perception that I have. It's because of the life experience that I have that this book came through that filter and I saw something different than others saw. And if you're returning to this podcast, I have talked about your perception quite a lot. I've talked about the fact that we have something called text tone, right? Where you may misunderstand the tone that somebody intended because of the way that you read their text versus the way they meant their text to come across, right? They had a certain tone in mind, but maybe you read a completely different tone. So to consider this in another way, anything that we see or anything that we experience is coming through our, eyes or our senses, our touch or smell or taste, and it's being processed by our brain. And even the things that we pay attention to has to get through the brain first to say, yes, we're going to pay attention to that. So every single day we've got constant information overload coming at us. The sights, the smells, the experiences, everything, right, is coming at us so quickly. And so our brain is actually designed, it's called a reticular activating system. It is designed to decide what gets through and what doesn't. It says what you're going to ignore and what you're going to pay attention to. And this is the way that you can start to become aware of what you're paying attention to and actually make changes to where you're placing your attention. There have been so many studies that show that one, we actually can determine the type of life that we're going to lead based on our mind and what we think and feel about ourselves. Like there's been studies that have shown that people that were in their, I think it was their 70s, when they went back to living a life that was kind of very similar to the way that they lived in their 50s, their physical health started to get better because they saw themselves and their environment as a time when they associated their lives and their bodies, really their physical bodies, as healthier and younger. And they started to match that in the way that they behaved. There's also the study of people who determine themselves or self-claim to be unlucky or lucky and the opportunities that they see in their life because if they think they're lucky or they're unlucky. So imagine if you decided to pick a feeling or something like abundance and say, I'm going to start paying attention to what is there. So I mentioned Maggie before, and recently she had a great video where she said for 2025, your intention should be to see what's already there. And I don't think those were her exact words. I'll link that video down below if you'd like to watch that one as well. It's really good. And she speaks much more to your awareness, right? And your consciousness and what you're paying attention to, but does mention the reticular activating system as well, because we are all taking stuff in and making a choice on what we're going to pay attention to. And we want to confirm to ourselves that we are right in our beliefs. So our minds are going to find ways to confirm to us that we are right or not right. So as you're starting to make changes, begin to become aware of what you are paying attention to. That is truly one of your first steps, is to just become aware. What are the thoughts and beliefs and behaviors and things that you're paying attention to? What are some perspectives that you could possibly change? So in other words, instead of looking at everything as an opportunity for you to fail or an opportunity for it to not work out the way that you want it to, can you start to consider the possibility that maybe it will? That if you just sit and start to pay attention to all the ways that you have abundance in your life, or all the ways that you're shown love, or all the ways that things just tend to work out for you in one way or another, you will start to pick up on more opportunities for that stuff to happen. Your brain will say, oh, let's pay attention to that, and start paying attention more to that. And you shift your identity to someone who has those things. So as we come into this week, that is my challenge for you over the next 7 days, is I want you to pick a feeling, whether that is abundance, wealth, relief, comfort, confidence, love, whatever it is. I want you to pick a feeling, and every night I want you to sit down and review your day and list out all the ways that you saw that in your day. And then each morning, make an intention that you're going to pay attention for that. You're going to say, I'm going to look for all the ways that I am shown love during my day. And then during the day, start taking mental notes. Somebody holds the door open for you. Mental note, that's love. Your child draws you a beautiful picture. Mental note, that's love. You get a text from a friend who just says, hey, wanted to say good morning, see how you're feeling. That's love, right? They're showing you love. Your daughter on Instagram sends you like a funny meme and you're like, that's adorable. And that's love. You were thinking of me and you sent me something to make me smile. What a loving act. Your partner, makes you your coffee in the morning. There's love. And I want you to start taking note of these things and shifting your perspective and what you're paying attention to. And then start to see how your brain rewires to find more and more. And you'll be like, wow, there's more of this now coming into my life. And it's because you're paying attention to it. It's because you're confirming to yourself that you have that within your life. So I hope that this was helpful. This is probably the shortest podcast episode that I have ever done. But I hope that it was helpful. I hope that it's motivating. And I really hope that you do this activity this week. I think it can be absolutely mind-blowing and life-changing. I know that it has created immense change in my life. So if you have any questions, if you're on YouTube, you can leave them down below. If you want to reach out, I do have an email, unleashinghappiness@ceciliahendricks.com. And I wish you nothing but the best. And I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful week.